What is it like being a Jamaican living in Nigeria? Hi, I'm Xavier Murphy, founder of Jamaicans.com, and today in Jamaicans to the World, I talk to Cherise Ige, a Jamaican living in Nigeria. Hi, Cherise, how are you?
Hi, Xavier. I'm great. Thank you. Happy to be here and very happy to start the conversation with you.
Nice, nice. So, tell us a little bit about your background, where in Jamaica you're from. Big up your school if you want, in that part,
I
that
mean,
story.
so you don't have to ask me twice. I love bigging up everything about Jamaica, and hopefully that includes myself. So for me, I was born in Jubilee Hospital, Kingston Jubilee Hospital, in March, 1980 to be precise. And so I come from a multitude of places, but we settled somewhere off Mountain View, not a very safe place to live. I think it was called Langston Road, but also Jake's Road. A very dangerous neighborhood. And my parents were quite young when they had me. For me, I went to something called an all age school, not a preparatory or primary school. It was called Norman Garden All Age. And then I quickly started my journey at Campion College once I passed those common entrance exams. So with me, my journey in Jamaica has been vast, I would say, from a multitude of dynamics in terms of cultural differences from one end of the stick,
Right,
like downtown,
right.
and the other end, the uptown. And anybody who is Jamaican will understand what I'm
Yes,
saying. And I'm glad because I got good exposure, not just from the schools or the areas that I came from, but also from my family members. My dad is from St. Mary originally, my mom from St. Thomas up in the Blue Mountains. And so that created a lot of exposure, on not being just a Kingstonian, a city girl.
I
You
know.
go to the country and
Yes. My
yeah.
dad's from
And,
St.
and,
Mary
and so
also.
really,
Yes.
don't tell me Port Maria, we might be related.
Close to Port
I,
Maria, a place called Sandside.
Sunside. Oh my God, that's where my dad's people are from. So we're the Howells before marriage. Now I'm Ige, but I was Cherise Howell before.
Right.
And yeah,
Well,
so journey in Jamaica was great. I don't know if you want the journey beyond
well,
Jamaica, but
I'm
that
going
was
right to that journey next, which is, um, before you moved to Nigeria, what did you know
mm,
about the country?
well, that's a difficult question because I have been married now for almost, I think, 14 years, 13, 14 years, if I calculate correctly. And I'm actually married to a Nigerian. So, in terms of being exposed to the culture before I moved here, I kind of was. However, obviously, unless you live somewhere, you don't know exactly how it is to be there. Um, my idea of Nigeria was from a lens. I think I lived in the UK at the time in London, and the lens was that Nigeria was very dangerous. It's not somewhere that people come to settle. It is in flux, and you just have to operate with some kind of risk assessment or security personnel once you navigate through Nigeria. So it wasn't a place that I would think that I would end up from what I've heard previously.
What city are you
Yeah.
in?
I'm in Lagos, baby.
Okay.
Is there any other ones?
My memories of Lagos, and they have a little skyline and everything, and a
Oh,
little
yeah.
the bridge crossing over onto the
Mhm.
island. Some
The
fun
third
memories.
mainland bridge. How long ago was that? How long ago was your
um,
trip to Lagos?
Pre-COVID, yes,
Okay.
pre-COVID.
Okay.
Right,
Yes.
actually, maybe a
Right.
year before COVID. It's funny how we
Okay.
measure things
Yes.
by COVID now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So,
Cool.
tell me what you do in Lagos, and what does your typical day look like?
Right. So ultimately, I think I'll answer this question in two parts. I'll answer what you've just asked me later on, but I'll tell you how I actually got here. So I quickly moved from high school in Jamaica to university in the UK, for which after university, I started working in the UK. I worked for several companies until I landed a role with a financial services company, more so insurance. And I then was with them for quite some time. Now they started up Africa operations, Africa strategy to attain subsidiaries within Africa and build on the company's legacy. And so I was one of those people that was shifted over to Africa to help build up the company's subsidiaries. So I was first in Ghana,
Okay.
and then after Ghana, I then got shifted to Nigeria. And so that's why I'm here. So how a typical day looks is a typical day of meetings, really. The meetings overtake your life as if you don't have much to do, and then at night you probably work. So I go in to the office and I have meetings from 9 till 5. I'm lucky if I have any grace period to do anything else.
Right.
But it's meetings that hopefully is achieving something because I don't like to have meetings that are just there for meeting's sake.
I hear you.
So you liaise with your team, you ensure that they're on track, you ensure that things are being done how they should be done, and you move forward, and then obviously you meet with the execs and you ensure that
So,
things go well. So
so it sounds
yeah.
like you have a very important role there for the company you're working with. How many other countries on the continent have you traveled to, kind of in the role or maybe not in the role? Um,
Right. So since being in Africa, my intention or my goal is to travel to all 54 African countries. I didn't even know they had 54 countries before I moved here. That showed my level of ignorance when it came to Africa. And so I wanted to educate myself in that way. How many I've traveled to, I can't say. I would put it in a range of around 15 of them. So I haven't done not even half as yet, but I've done around 15. I can name a few, and I'm excited because Africa is just amazing. And I don't even know if I can just say that we've been lied to or what, but this continent is just pure joy to be here. So I've been to places like Kenya, Tanzania, Zambia, South Africa, Senegal, Ivory Coast,
right.
to name a few. Sao Tome, which is an island off the coast of Africa, which looks very much like Jamaica, has all our fruit cheese, akis, almonds, everything. It's like you're in Jamaica. So there's so much to offer here. Yeah.
When folks find out that you're Jamaican, what's the typical reaction? Not only in Nigeria,
Oh
but
my God.
in other
Let me give
countries.
you two answers to that. In Ghana, I don't know what it is with Ghana and Jamaica, but there is this unwritten connection. So if you're in Ghana, if you say you're Jamaican, respect is just given immediately. Over and above that, I know we're not talking about Ghana, but I just had to mention it. In Ghana, every single public bus that they have has a Jamaican flag on it.
Yes,
The Jamaican flag appears more than the Ghanaian flag,
yes.
if you will
I,
believe
I I
me.
can attest to that.
You've seen
I've been
it.
there twice.
Yes,
I've been there twice. So I
yes,
know.
right. So Nigeria is a bit different. Nigeria now, they are a very proud people, just like Jamaicans are a very proud people. So sometimes if you say you're Jamaican, it's like, oh, okay, well, and then let's move on. But then there are people who have traveled who have met a Jamaican on the way, and immediately you say you're Jamaican now, they're fascinated because they're like, oh, my friend from university in the US or my friend from university in the UK or Europe, and they strike about. So if they know of Jamaica, they're very much excited. Yeah,
Yeah,
across the continent.
it's
Yeah.
interesting. You say that because the jokes about the Jamaicans and Nigerians is an interesting one,
Mhm.
but we'll save some of those
Yeah.
in because we're gonna circle back at some point. I'm gonna have you back with your husband.
Hi. All right. Or if not with my husband, with a couple of Nigerian friends I've met along the way.
Maybe,
How about that?
maybe, but we will definitely circle back.
All right, for sure, for sure. No problem there. Yeah.
So talk to me. It's you're not it sounds like they keep you really busy. How would you say in
Mhm.
Nigeria is the work life balance for the typical
Mm.
person?
For the typical person, that's a tough one. I would for a typical person, it's tough.
Mm,
There's no other word for it. It's tough.
mm,
Nigeria is a country, a huge country with over 230 million in population. In Lagos alone, where I am, it's above 20 million people. That's 10 times the population of Jamaica alone. That means that competition is fierce. So you find that a lot of people will be very, very well educated because they're compete, even if it's for us a minute job, they will have masters, PhD, whatever, because everybody is competing for the same job. So competition is fierce. Over and above that, the infrastructure here is not the greatest. And when I say infrastructure, I mean roads, electricity, internet connectivity. And so you find that even if people try to do their own businesses, it can be impacted by the local terrain. So it's quite difficult. Then a third thing I'll mention is traffic consideration. So the public transportation system has not been elevated to the point where it should be. And so you will find that the traffic situation in Nigeria, if you live in certain places, so you have the mainland, you have the island. And the island is the one over the bridge. If you live on the island, maybe traffic is not so bad. But if you live on the mainland, typically the traffic is bad. So you have people traveling anywhere from 1 to 3 hours to get into the office. Obviously, that will affect their work life balance. They really don't have one, they're consistently in traffic.
yes.
So those are a few things that impacts it. And the last thing I'll say is that despite all of that, Nigerians just work so hard.
Mm,
They work around the clock, 24 hours
mm.
to combat all these issues. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, coming back with some Nigerian friends. So you have a friend group that
Mhm.
you have developed there of Nigerian women or whatever, maybe both sexes. That how did
Then Xavier, then no must, then am I Jamaican? If I don't develop friend group, then I'm not Jamaican. Then I need to revoke my Jamaican passport and just, retire. But of course, I have several friendship groups now, one of which I'm proudest of. In Nigeria, there's a Caribbean community. They're not vast, but they're here. And it's basically called the Nigeria West Indian Association. And typically, a lot of those women in the club right now are very much elderly, but they try to attract any younger people who will be coming over. Now, those ladies that are here and have been here for quite some time, and they're from Jamaica or other smaller Caribbean islands, they would have come here because they met their husbands overseas at university or somewhere, and then they decided to get married and then they moved back to Nigeria. So we have a whole lot of that. And these people try to keep the Caribbean mindset, liveliness, livelihood alive, even though they're in a different terrain. And so, they do various things. So right now we have the Caribbean Tropical Fiesta coming up. It's kind of they try to do a little carnival thing in Lagos, and they drive that, but they're conscious that they're getting older, so they need to hand over to the next generation. There might be a gap there because people not getting married anymore, and people don't even want to have babies anymore. So there's a struggle there, and not many people are looking at Nigeria as a place to go for opportunities, and
mm,
except for other people, which I won't mention here. Yeah, who.
let me ask you
Mhm.
this: is the Caribbean West Indian community there in Nigeria, are they concentrated in a particular area? They're scattered. How do you find that community?
Well, I would say that because Lagos is the largest city in terms of population, then you would find that they're probably more concentrated here. But you have them in Abuja and in other states too, because I have a friend that lives in Abuja. She moved there from Miami with her husband. You might know her if you lived in Miami, Stephanie. but she lives there with her husband. Yeah, so there's a few scattered.
Right.
I can't tell you how scattered they are because I've only ever been to two states in Nigeria. Of the 36, I believe they have,
Mm.
I've only been to two. Yeah, because of security concerns. Yeah.
So, in terms of events that the West Indian Caribbean folks have there, is there, you talk about this festival that's coming up. How long has this festival
Mhm.
been happening, and is it the one event that every
Mm.
year you all look forward to? It's a thing that happens for you all.
Yeah, so I think back in their day, because quite a lot of them has been in Nigeria for 40 plus, 50 plus years. So it used to be a big thing. I think it kind of subsided down once people went away, had kids, had family, everything like that, and they're trying to build it back up. And so I don't want to speak too much on it because I don't know the intricacies of it, but I do know that they're trying to bring it back to life to how it used to be. Now, in terms of how many years it's been running for a number of years. I know it's 10 plus or beyond that. Um, but there are other activities that we involve ourselves in. I will say something like, charitable events. There's a Small World festival that happens every year in Nigeria, and it brings together people from all over the world. And you wouldn't realize how diverse Nigeria can be, especially on the island, because there's so many expatriates here as well. And so this Small World event typically comes together to build funds for various charitable organizations, but it does so by aligning or bringing people from different cultures together who will then have to perform. And so you'll have people from, a group from Thailand doing their Thai traditional dance. You'll have people from India doing their Indian traditional dance. And then you'll have people from the West Indies. So this NWI will take part and we'll do a traditional dance with our music and stuff like that. So you expose people to the
So,
culture, not just of Jamaica, but of the Caribbean as well.
well,
Yeah.
well, I know you have been chosen
Hey,
as well. Last year you said you were
last
you
year,
you were the Caribbean queen last year.
we don't know. Clock it.
What was
Clock it, Xavier.
what was that
Huh?
experience like, being the Caribbean
It
queen
was
at the
nice because
festival?
I've decided in life. Listen, I've decided in life I say no to nothing. So when people come to me with anything, if it's within my remit, I will do it. So, if you're speaking to me now, you know that I am a little bit vibrant, even without speaking to me, maybe outside of this conversation, I'll be more vibrant. And so when people saw that, they're like, okay, maybe you could be our Caribbean queen. And normally I would have said no. Like if you asked me 2, 3 years ago, I probably would have said no. But now I'm in a phase of my life where, whatever makes you happy, do it. And so they asked me, and I was like, you know what? Why not? Yes. And so I was a Caribbean queen, and man, what a Caribbean queen I was.
Well, congrats on that. A question kind of tying back to Nigeria and Jamaicans. Now,
Yeah.
have you done your ancestry to see if there's any Nigerian in you? I've done mine, and there is
Mm,
Nigerian in me.
really?
Yes,
There's Nigerian
there
there.
is Nigerian. I actually did both the ancestry.com and
Oh,
the
wow.
African ancestry.
And then,
So I am Mafa, from the Mafa tribe, or people, the Mafa
oh,
people
wow.
in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But Nigeria is the
How many percent? How many percent Nigerian are you?
40 odd percent Nigerian.
You're too
But
light, Jesus.
but this
Wow.
is not about me. It's about you. Have you
Yeah.
done your
You look
your
evil.
your
All
your
right.
ancestry to see if there's any
So,
Nigerian blood there?
unfortunately, not. Unfortunately, not. But I'm quite interested. It would be nice to know. But in terms of connection, I feel like I have a stronger connection to Ghana
Okay.
than to Nigeria.
Okay.
So, but I feel like I could have both running through my veins, but
There's
I
both
feel a
running through
strong.
my veins, but the majority that is
I can't believe you're 40%. That's even more Nigerian than Nigerians that live in Nigeria.
Yes.
You need to come home. All right.
the my a friend there said the name he gave me when I went to Nigeria was Omowale. The sun has come home.
Yes, yes.
I think is what the
Oh
meaning of
yes,
it
oh
is.
yes, you need to come
Yes.
home.
Yeah.
Mine is Mujisola. They named me Mujisola, which means wake up to wealth. And I love that because that's exactly what I want to be doing.
So that you're actually leading right into my next question, which is cost
Okay.
of living. What's the cost of living
Hmm.
like in Nigeria?
Ah, that's an interesting one. It's difficult to respond to this one simply because of all the macroeconomic factors that have happened in recent years, especially pre COVID. So I would say that comparatively, if you were to compare Nigeria to other West African countries, maybe it could have been relatively cheap. But in the last 2 years or so, Nigeria's currency has depreciated quite a lot. In the last 9 months or so, it's stabilized in the last year, but before that, it depreciated by over 100%. And so, what that meant is that food prices, because a lot of food is imported, went up significantly, and inflation actually got impacted. So, that's very high. So, for the locals who are earning naira, which is the Nigerian currency, affordability will be difficult, very
Mm,
expensive.
mm.
For expatriates earning dollars or pounds or euros, whatever they earn, they're living the high life. So it's a different story
So it depends
for
on where
different people.
what class or what salary
Yes,
range you fall in is what.
exactly. And the majority will fall into, yeah, the
So
not so
so you
wealthy.
touched on this a little bit, and I want to go
Mm.
back to it. And this again is
Yeah.
not fact. This is your opinion.
Okay.
What I'm asking, and it was one
Mhm.
of the questions we discussed, but you kind of touched on it and kind of opened the door up. Is
All
it
right.
in terms of education? Because I
Mm.
think studies here, this is, I think, factual in terms of Nigerians when they come west, or they go to the UK, or they go to the United States, they pursue education and are one of the highest educated immigrants when they leave Nigeria, and probably even in Nigeria. What is it? And again, this is, I'm just asking your opinion. Have you seen? Is it a culture? Is it, what is it that pushes this?
Yeah. So it's a good question. And it's probably factually right, what you said from the studies that you've shown. Nigeria is a big place. Nigeria is a very big country, and it's separated with three dominant tribes. I don't know if I'm saying the right, but from my perspective anyway, that's the Hausas, the Igbos, and the Yorubas. So the houses typically tend to live up north, beyond Abuja, which is the capital of Nigeria. And that is where a lot of instability is because maybe there's not a lot of opportunities up north. In terms of the Igbos, I think they're like more east or south. Don't put me up on that one. My geography is bad. But that tribe typically tends to be the businessmen, businesswomen within the country. Like in Jamaica, the Indians or the Chinese. Those are the Igbos, and they tend to look like a bit lighter skin, whatever. And then you have the Yorubas, which are they're probably the ones that you come across a lot when you're overseas because they're loud and proud, and they tend to be the ones that get educated quite a lot. My husband is also Yoruba. And what you find is because the population in Nigeria, like I said before, is there's so many people, you have to try and separate yourself from the next person. Even if you're going for a PA job, you have to make sure something separates you from that. And the way in which Nigerians do that is to ensure that they're educated. culturally as well, their parents probably they tell them, listen, and it's a black thing too, I think, because all our parents tell us if you want to get somewhere, you need to be educated. But Nigerians have taken it a step further that too much education is never a bad thing. And so they continuously strive to get to the highest level. They always want to learn. No matter what they're doing, they're studying something. I feel like that is something to be celebrated because they have far surpassed Jamaicans. I feel like at one point, especially when I lived in the UK, I would say Jamaicans and Nigerians were probably at the same level, competing, whatever. But us Jamaicans, we love good time and good time only. So we gone over there having our good time. Meanwhile, the Nigerians can have good time, but they're also elevating with, that education. And so now when you look at Nigerians, I think they've gone a step to beyond us in terms of that. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned we love to party, and
Oh
we
gosh.
we are so similar with some things where again we're going to say it like it is.
Yes,
Right?
amen,
And I
amen.
have some really close Nigerian friends, and when it comes to partying, they party hard, right?
Of course, harder than many of us.
So many similarities.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting. I'm gonna switch up a little bit
Mhm.
and tell us about the
All right.
Nigerian foods that you like. Give me two foods that you said this night this is good.
So I don't really eat Nigerian food so much because it's super spicy. I feel like it's even more spicier than Jamaican
Really?
food. Um, Half the time I feel like my tongue is on fire and I can't survive. But if I were to say the food that I like, I actually had some yesterday, pounded yam and egusi. I love that. I don't like my food too complex. Even I didn't realize that Nigerians do oxtail, but I'm unsure if it's Nigerian. It could be from a different culture. So let me not say that. But when I have oxtail here in a sort of tomato sauce, not the Jamaican
Yeah, the famous
oxtail brown
tomato
stew
sauce
sauce.
that you dip
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
in.
yeah. That tastes, yeah, it tastes good. Trust me. Yeah, so I would say if that version of oxtail is from Nigeria, then yes, that. But in terms of Nigerian food, egusi and pounded yam, and maybe the goat pepper soup. If I can handle the pepper, I can't handle the pepper, so leave it alone.
What activities do you absolutely love doing in your off time? Maybe it's visiting, a specific place. Maybe
Mm,
it's, just going to the river, the beach, what do you love doing
mm.
there?
Yeah, so we're kind of limited in Nigeria because of like the security concerns. And it doesn't mean that the places that I would like to visit have those issues, but I don't want to learn the hard way. So I typically stay in Lagos or go to Abuja. And Abuja is mostly for business anyway. But there's nice sights to see in Abuja as well. But Lagos is not so bad because it's ocean facing, right? It's beach facing. So there's several things you can do. So I typically go to like the Lagos Yacht Club to hang out with friends, or we can go to the boat club. There's a jet ski club. So there's a lot of clubs you can go to. You can jump on a boat and drive down to an island, a private island, or beach house in Ilashe or one of these places, Cocoa Beach, and just have a good time. And then I also like because Nigeria is surrounded by water, which a lot of people probably don't know. They have a river running right through the city. Okay, I call it a river. It might not be a river. Maybe it's a lagoon. And I love to take boat rides on that at night and go bar hopping.
All right.
It's not bad. So, and aside from all of that, I love to, go out, good restaurants. There's a beautiful restaurant. My favorite restaurant in Nigeria is called Slow. Oh my God, the food is divine. And then I also play sports.
Okay. What type of sports?
So let me not pretend like I do golf, but I've tried golf once or twice. But netball is more my sport,
Okay.
and I would love to do tennis, but yeah,
All right.
I don't follow through. But netball I do regularly. Yes.
Okay. So you talk about restaurants. Is there a Jamaican restaurant you have discovered there in Lagos? And part two to that question, where do you get your Jamaican fix? Are you cooking it yourself? Or is relatives bringing stuff? Tell me that part after you talk
Hey,
about the restaurant.
let me quickly answer that. So yes, I could not live here properly if I didn't have a Jamaican fix. If it were for me to do it or somebody else, there would have to be a fix, yeah, because we're Jamaicans and we need that. So luckily for me, in Lagos, there's a Jamaican restaurant called Jamsky. Jamsky has been a blessing in disguise. Very small establishment, nothing fancy, but amazing vibes and good food
Oh,
and good
are they
people.
fairly new?
Oh,
No? Okay.
they've been here for a while. They've been here for a while,
Okay.
and it's actually a Jamaican man, Papa Jamsky, and he brought over Jamaican chefs. So,
Nice.
they're here and they cook the food. They don't always have the proper ingredients, like what we use in Jamaica, but they do whatever they can do, or they order it from overseas. So that's where I go to get my Jamaican food and oftentimes get my Jamaican fix. And the good thing is I don't have to go there. I can always order from there. You asked if I cook. I will plead the fifth on that one. Give it to you. Let me plead. I'll plead the fifth on that one and just say I enjoy food from Jamsky. Let's leave that there.
They keep you too busy, Cherise. They keep you too busy there.
I mean, exactly, exactly.
So, what
Exactly.
advice would you give to either Caribbean, Jamaican, someone who's thinking of relocating to Nigeria?
Mm. So that's a tough one, yeah, because Nigeria can be very fun, but you have to be aware of all the intricacies that are here. So I would say that Nigeria is probably one of the toughest African countries to live in. So if somebody chooses to live here, they probably would have to live in a somewhat similar type of terrain first in order for them to achieve success here. Maybe an Africa starter pack like Ghana. Ghana is relatively safe, secure, easy, and then come to Nigeria. But if you do choose to come to Nigeria straight away, just ensure that you do the necessary due diligence. You speak to a number of different Nigerians who have experience living here to know the living situation. People always assume that because Africa is tends to be cheaper than the West, that the affordability here is better. That is not the case because you will find things are cheaper, but you're probably spending often on many things, and so it adds up. So you will need to ensure that you budget well. You know what you're coming here for. If it's a business you're planning to start, ensure that you do a proper business plan and know where everything is coming from and that everything works well. I spoke about infrastructure and that it's not the best here. There is always workarounds, but you have to ensure that you know what those workarounds will be because Nigeria is not easy. It is a difficult place to live.
Okay.
Yes. Over and above all of that, the people who have lived here, especially a lot of the expatriates, they love it. They have not said a bad word about Nigeria. The people that will probably struggle a little bit more are the indigenous Nigerians who are feeling that
Mm.
pinch from depreciation of the currency, inflation, and everything else, and the political environment. Yeah.
Cherise, thank you so much for giving us some insight on Nigeria, telling us your story about being a Jamaican living there. Have you picked up
Yeah,
any
man.
of the language, and can you teach me how to say goodbye, or you're really dealing it with business people, so you're not out there on
I am rubbish. I'm rubbish with languages. I think they just say goodbye anyway. There's no special way to say goodbye. The only word I know is bounty, which means never mind, hush, and that's Yoruba, because there's like 110 different languages or dialects. If I was to try, I'll be confused. So the Yoruba one, the one word I know is bounty, and if I hear something else, I might say, "Oh yes," but
Well,
yeah.
well, we want to have you back, and the next time it's either with your husband or some friends, and and so
Hey,
and so we will do the
we want,
Jamaican one. We will do Likkle more.
yeah, man, little more.
Cherise,
All right, Xavier,
thank you
no
again,
problem.
and Likkle more.
Little more.